So tonight's guest is Gayle Fetick. Gayle Fetick. Gayle is a nature photographer based in the Texas Hill Country, and she spends a lot of her time photographing wildflowers across the state of Texas. And she often ventures outside of our borders to extend her wildflower chase. But in tonight's presentation, The Beauty of Wildflowers, Gayle will take us across the state and share some of her favorite wildflower sightings. As a bonus, she'll share her tips and online resources that will help you enjoy Texas's wildflower season. If you're on Instagram, look for her at Gayle Fetick Photos, but you can connect with her through her website, gfetick.myportfolio.com. Several years ago, I was visiting the Fort Worth Botanical Garden and invited Gayle to join me and a few other ladies on just a little field trip. So I am thrilled to introduce you to her tonight. And with that, Gayle, thank you for saying yes to my invitation. I am so excited that I kind of got a little bit of a preview of your presentation. And what I'm going to get out of this is I see a lot of wildflowers. I photograph a lot of wildflowers, and a lot of times I don't know what their names are. And I know that you do. So I think I'm going to get a little bit of a education out of this deal. So welcome, Gayle.
You.
There you are. How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, are you ready to do this? Um, so Gayle has I think this is your first presentation, right? To do on Zoom. So she's a little nervous that her presentation isn't going to load, and I told her not to worry because through the magic of editing, I will take care of any glitches. So with that, Gayle, do you did I miss anything in your introduction? Is there anything you want to share?
Oh, I have done presentations at work for income taxes, so this is a lot more fun. And
That sounds awful.
I know it was. And people were like, "Oh, why are they making that pregnant lady do this?" Because I was pregnant during one of them, but it's just kind of funny. Luckily, I don't have to do those anymore. But yes, this is the first one of anything else.
That's going to be fun, and it's going to be something I know that you love. Um, One of the reasons I asked you to do this is I met you through Instagram. And at the time, I was new to Instagram. So I was just looking for anybody that had pretty pictures. And I stumbled across yours, and I was just noticing how many wildflowers were in your feed. And I don't know if I've told you this in person, but in my mind, you're my wildflower person. I kind of I think I've even reached out to you and said, "Hey, what are you seeing?" Because Texas is so large. And wildflowers, I grew up in South Texas, so that would be about an hour and a half south of San Antonio. And where I grew up, it's very, very seldom that you'll see a bluebonnet. It just gets too hot down there. And when I moved to the Austin area, I was like, wow, the bluebonnets were crazy. And um, it's not just, wildflowers are everywhere. You just have to hit them at the right time. And there's a lot of, science to it. We need certain amount of rain, we need certain amount of luck, and all that comes to play. But I remember reaching out to you and a couple of years ago asking you, at the time you lived in the Fort Worth area, like, what do you see? Is it worth going up that direction? Because that's what we do. We have to kind of rely on our Instagram friends to kind of say, no, don't come this direction. So, um, anyway, let you get started. And if you want to, go ahead and start sharing your screen.
Okay. Well, I have wildflowers from the Hill Country, Austin, and San Antonio area on this page. And I got interested in actually driving around and finding these places because of, let me read this. It was a man on, Facebook and Instagram that does like amazing wildflower, you know, pictures, and he has he has a online source that I like so much, and it got me to go out and find them. And wildflowerhaven.com. On Instagram he's Rich O Creative, I think. But his article was in the newspaper. My husband told me, look at this. And so immediately from there, I started going out looking for these wildflowers everywhere. I mean, I had a few places to go to before. I didn't really know them well in Texas because I'm not from Texas, but it's fun. And he's still doing these. People post their pictures on Facebook, and you know, he expects you to like put the time and date that you found these and what they are. So that's how I started learning a lot more about them too. Um, but anyway, let me talk about what I want to share. I've taken wildflowers in a lot in Texas, but also Colorado and some in Arizona. We all know Texas state's flower is the bluebonnet, which is, it's native to Texas. And there are 6 varieties of them in Texas in the lupinus family, and they typically bloom in the spring. Texas has many wildflowers, and they bloom from spring through at least early fall. I was finding some up in Dallas, Fort Worth I had never seen before in the fall, and they were kind of cool, so I took pictures. We had an area where we could walk down a path and there would be houses there, but also flowers in some areas. It was fun. Um, so anyway, I found out too that there's 6 um, lupinous flowers and in Texas, 6 different kinds. They're somewhat different looking. Um, but I also have been going to Colorado quite a bit. My husband lived there before, and my son has lived there. And so we love to go to the mountains and find scenery and wildflowers. But Colorado also has lupinous wildflowers such as silvery lupins and red lupins, and their state flower is columbine. And columbine lupins, they bloom in the summer. And my favorite place to go is Crested Butte. And I've also been to Maroon Bells and Aspen. It's beautiful too, with wildflowers. But then I was also have gone to Telluride, but it's been a long time. So I haven't been there in a while, but we go to Crested Butte. It's not as hard to get to. And then I've only been to Arizona twice, and I found desert wildflowers in the spring on our visits in March and April, including lupins, a lot of cactus plants, and California poppies in both Phoenix and Tucson. Those are very popular there, and they're native to that state. They come, they're not far from California, so I guess so. And I was thinking too, when I would look at the pictures of things like the lupins and some of the other, it reminds me of pictures I've seen of wildflowers in Big Bend. I haven't been there yet, but I'd like to. I have also, bought books to look up, wildflowers. I bought them in Texas, Colorado, and Arizona to try to figure out what they are. But that Texas the wildflowerhaven.com is a good place to start. It's really good. So these are the places I've been as far as botanical gardens and parks with wildflowers. In Texas, Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center in Austin is great. And same with Wild Seed Farms in Fredericksburg, San Antonio Botanical Garden, Fort Worth Botanical Garden. And I found this little park in Fort Worth called Blue Stem Park in Fort Worth. And Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center helped set that up. But the last one is Muleshoe Bend and Spicewood. The first one, the first picture up on here on the left-hand side at the top was taken there. Anyway, let's see if there's anything else exciting. Colorado, I've been to Maroon Bells in Aspen, Betty Ford Alpine Gardens in Vail. Those are places that have a lot of wildflowers. Arizona, we found quite a few places. Piachos Peak State Park, Arizona, Sonoran Desert Museum, Saguaro National Park, and Sabina Canyon. And they're near Tucson, the Phoenix Desert Botanical Garden and Boyce Thompson Arboretum are in or near Phoenix. So anyway, I also want to point out, like in this picture, the upper right-hand corner, I took that east of San Antonio. It was really beautiful that year. And then the middle one is in the Austin area. And the one on the left down the bottom was also east of both San Antonio and Austin. Sometimes just driving around, you'll find these great pictures. And then the last picture was in the Texas Hill Country. Just from driving around, I found it. But I wanted to let you all know I use a Sony mirrorless camera to take pictures. And I use the baby lenses quite a bit. I also have a Sigma 70 mm macro lens and a Tamron 28 to 200, but it's got a low aperture you can use, and it starts at 28 millimeter, and you get a little bit of macro in there. And that has worked for me too, because I take it to Colorado, so I don't have to be switching out lenses all the time. And one thing I found too is the Nisi filter is good to put on the ends of some of these lenses to get more of a macro effect too. So those are just suggestions. But anyway, editing pictures of wildflowers can help to make the background softer. I use Lightroom, Adobe Photoshop, which I don't know as well as Lightroom, and Luminar Neo. You can make your background softer. Adobe Lightroom has masks that are not hard to use. Masks always intimidate me, but these are not hard at all. And you can do the lens blur choice on the develop module in Lightroom. And I use Lightroom denoise. I think somebody was talking about that yesterday, and that's pretty good. But Topaz AI has it too. And then Neo can also reduce noise and sharpen photos. So, if the background's a little messy, you can still fix it with, photography apps. Anyway, I'll get started on going through these pictures so I can tell you what types of wildflowers we're talking about. I think we all know this one, bluebonnets. I took it with one of those lens baby lenses. And then this one is pink prickly poppies. I found those kind of south of San Antonio, and I hadn't seen pink ones before. I thought that was pretty cool. The next one is just your regular prickly poppies. I also found it in the same area. Uh, Horseman or bee balm. I took this recently. And then my basket flowers. I think I took that up in Dallas Fort Worth area because I used to find them quite a bit. This is a Coreopsis crown tick seed, and I found that in Fort Worth, but they're all over the place. I mean, I'd find them around San Antonio too. And then basket flowers again. I just think they're so pretty. I haven't seen as much around here, but I think Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center is the place to look for them, maybe. And then this is Coreopsis. I found it in our neighborhood walking, back in when I lived in Keller. It was nice. I would take my camera with me on my walks. And then this is a wine cup, which I love these. These are pretty. And then your I call them fire wheels. Some people call them blanket flowers, but they're pretty nice. My husband said he thought he liked those more than bluebonnets. I'm like, are you sure about that? And then this is Bluebell gentian. I think these are beautiful. They're not as easy to find, but you can find them. I took these in Fort Worth. I could find them up there fairly easily, and same with Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center. These are the paintbrush. I guess we call them Indian paintbrush, but they can come in different colors too. I've photographed some in pinkish purple and some in an other, I don't know how to describe it, but another color too. It was kind of different, almost yellow. Here we go again, the paintbrush. And this is my blue bonnet. I took this with one of my lens baby lenses, and I really like the way it turned out. Those lenses are nice. And these are blue-eyed grass, and I hadn't seen much of them until we moved to Dallas Fort Worth, and they were all over the neighborhood areas. And so I got my macro lens for these because they were so tiny, you had to get down kind of close and take the pictures. But I thought the macro lens did a great job on backgrounds too for pictures because it had a lower aperture. For lenses that have lower apertures, you can get good results, when you're trying to get a picture of something up close. And then the background looks good. And this is primrose. We all see that somewhere, I think. I remember seeing it all over the roads, San Antonio, Dallas area. And they're here too. They're pretty. So I want to make sure okay, these are called antelope horns or green milkweed. I'm not sure which is the best description, but those grow a lot everywhere as well, I think. And then Engelmann daisies, I found these at the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center. They're pretty. Now this one is a Mexican tulip poppy. They had it the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center, but it's a West Texas wildflower, and I just thought this is really cool. It's pretty, and it looks like a poppy. And then these are Mexican tulip poppies. I mean, sorry, I read the wrong one. I'm like, what? Prairie cone flowers, yes. And those, I'd see them in San Antonio, I'd see them in Dallas, Fort Worth too. I'm sure they're around here as well. And my favorite purple cone flower. And this, I also have taken pictures in other places beside just San Antonio and Austin. The upper right-hand corner was in Ennis. And I liked going there when we lived in Keller. It was a nice place to visit. And then the other one was taken in Independence, which is not far from, oh, what's it called? Let's see. Brenham. Now I remember Brenham in Houston. And we went there because Lauren, our daughter, called me from Texas A&M. She says, Mom, I have a photography class and I need to do a project. Could we go to Brenham? Of course we said yes. And it's beautiful too. They had a lot of they had a lot of wildflowers there, mostly the red and blues, but it was a nice visit. And I also want to mention in this picture, this is a sunflower that blooms in the fall. So it's one of those that blooms, late in the summer, early fall. And we have quite a few that do that. It's a, let's see, it's got a different kind of name, but Maximilian sunflower. That's what it was. So we've gone through the wildflower picture, just plain pictures, but now I'm going to do the scenery. This was Ennis in our first year, I think. And I saw a lot of bluebonnets and Indian paintbrush together in that area too. And then this was the one taken around here last year. It just looked, it's different wildflowers than I usually took pictures of, I think. And then this was also Ennis. There's a park there with a lake. It's pretty. This was in the Texas Hill Country. Lots of fire wheels. And I took this last summer in Texas Hill Country too, just driving around. And then this is the one from the Brenham area, but Independence. Same with this one. And then this is the one that's kind of like maybe a little south of San Antonio and east, and not too far from Austin either, that area. I think we were off uh,
Looks like petite.
yeah, it's not petite, but it was on, what's the highway, that goes all the way down?
I-35.
Not 35, but it goes east west. It goes all the way out to
I-10. I-10.
I-10. Yes. We haven't traveled on I-10 since we've moved here for some reason. But yeah, that's where it was, pretty much around I-10. And then this was taken in the Texas Hill Country, the bluebonnets, which I can't resist. And then I had mentioned this was in east of San Antonio also. There are a lot of areas east or south of San Antonio that have these the different colors, not just blue bonnets or Indian paintbrush. They have flax and other things, or what mixed in with them. And I used to love going to find all these different places. And then this one is south of San Antonio, and also the same thing, mixtures of wildflowers. It was so much fun to go find those. There's some of that in the hill country too, I think. And this was in the hill country. That's the last picture of Texas. So I've been to most parts of Texas, except I need to go to Big Bend. Got to figure out how we're going to do that. All right, now the next is Colorado wildflowers. So all the pictures in this on this page were taken in Crested Butte, except for the one here with the mountains, and that was in Aspen. I just love going there. It's beautiful. And some
Gail,
years we have, go ahead.
let me ask a quick question for Sherry, because her question was about Colorado. What time of year would you recommend going to catch these wildflowers?
I would say late June to sometime in the middle of July. And we've gone as long as, we've gone sometimes in August and found some too, but, typically the ones in August are more like, different ones that you would find in the fall. But when we went to Telluride, there were wildflowers there that year. To find the lupins, um, I think you'd have to go a little earlier. It depends on how high the mountains are where you are. We went to Beaver Creek one time and took the gondola up to the top and saw lupins in August. It was like, not really expected, but it's more, it's more north than Crested Butte, so that's why. We like Beaver Creek too. It's fun and it's near Vail. It's pretty, but I feel like um, Crested Butte is really just amazing with wildflowers. So now we'll go through these. This is fireweed, and that's kind of a little bit later than the early bloomers, but I've still seen it there, like in July. It doesn't come as late as August, I don't think, although it can. Depends on which mountain you're looking at. And then I think this is a mule shoe sunflower that I took. Crested Butte, of course. And then this one is an aspen sunflower. You see a lot of those in the summer. I like it when they're mixed with the lupins too. They look pretty together. Here's some lupins I took with Len's baby lens. And you can see it's taller. Blue columbine. And then more blue columbine. And typically if I've come too much after, mid-July, you're not going to find them unless you're in higher elevations. Um, this is fleabane. I think it's pretty. People get it mixed up with asters sometimes, but it's kind of hard to tell, I think. And then these are blue flax. And this is called Wyoming paintbrush. You can tell that it looks different than the kind we have, but they have some paintbrush that I found in Vail that looks more like our paintbrush. These are harebells, and I think they're pretty too, and they're all over the place. Now this one is a sago Mariposa lily, and it's a little harder to find, but I don't have any trouble finding it in Colorado. It's one of my favorites. And then I did a macro lens one of it. More of blue columbine. This one is lighter. It's because it's starting to go. Otherwise, they're a darker blue. And then this is the sulfur paintbrush. Remember this, Linda? Somebody was talking about it in one of the
Gorgeous.
meetings. Yeah, it's just a different color. And then the wild roses, those are pretty there. I've found some here too, here and there. And then last but not least, the forget-me-not. They call it an aspen wildflower because it can be found at high elevations. I haven't been up to too many high, you know, real high mountains to find these. The hiking would be a little bit hard, I think, but they do look different than the ones that you find normally. This is just an example. And here are my wildflower scenics. This was crested butte, of course, along a lake, and they have all kinds of places to hike. That's my maroon bells. I just love that place. It's really beautiful in the fall too. We went one year and it was stunning. Those are those fireweed flowers. And then this is Crested Butte, a storm coming in. I had to run down the mountain to get out of it. It was like I wanted to take this picture and then I'm like, I gotta go. It was thundering. And Crested Butte again. These are the muleshoe wildflowers, Crested Butte. And then this was a lot of, what do they call this? Let's see, not larkspur, but if I can find my note on this one. Try to keep track of all these wildflowers. But it was a year where it was full of them. And it was pretty. Some years are better than others. We've gone when there have been super blooms, but we've also been when there's not as good of a year. It just depends. And more sunflowers at Crested Butte. This is a mountain that you can take the gondola up and walk down. That's a lot easier. Crested Butte again with different colors. They got all kinds of things. And there's the Wyoming paintbrush. And that's Mount Crested Butte in the background. And we found this place to go hiking. The hiking is fairly easy, but there were all kinds of color wildflowers there. More than I've seen in some of the other areas. And our beautiful columbines. I love those. They're pretty. And Mount Crested Butte with lupins. That was one of those, years where the blooms were everywhere. It was really nice. This year may be one of those years. They had so much snow this year. I think they broke a record or something. And that's when they have the best wildflowers, after those big snowstorms. If they don't get enough snow or rain, sometimes things don't look as good, but they had one of these this year, so I think it may be a good year to go. Our only problem there was finding places to eat because some of the places were closed or went out of business, and my husband said, I don't want to go back there. There's nothing to eat. Well, I'd like to go back. We'll see. All right, Arizona wildflowers. Now, I had not been to Arizona and had never seen the Grand Canyon before. I was far too old to be, but you know what I mean? I didn't go when I was younger, but we went a couple times and found that it's beautiful with the desert wildflowers and plants. The saguaros are really cool. All right, this one is Desert Globe Mallow. I saw quite a bit of that. And this is Perry Penstemon. And these are, the next few are going to be prickly pear cactus. Well, we've seen those in San Antonio and here, and you know, obviously West Texas too, but here's more of those. And here they are. We went to that botanical garden in Phoenix, and that's where I took a lot of these pictures. There's another, just, I'm not sure what kind of cactus. And this one, oh no, this one was also a prickly pear. This one, I'm not sure if that was or not. Looked a little different to me. I have some books, but I have a hard time with some of the cactus plants. These are called Desert Marigold. I thought they were pretty too. Another prickly pear. And this one is a lace claret cup cactus. And these are more cactus that I would see around there. Now here come the California poppies. And then lupins. I think they look like the kind that you would maybe find, you know, in West Texas.
Yeah, I was going to say that reminded me of the ones in Big Bend. They're very tall, skinny. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you know, the wildflowers are very close because they're not really that far away from each other. I mean, they're not close, but and more of the poppies. And I found one that was white. They have some of those. And then more of the California poppies. And now I have a few scenics. I took this at the Botanical Garden in Phoenix. It's just beautiful, that place. Same with this one. Looks like a desert to me with some flowers and lots of stuff. Lots of cactus plants. I thought it was really pretty. This was a on the way to airport stop. Just we noticed it and stopped for it. Um, so it's not far from Phoenix, but it was mixed in with all these wildflowers. You know, the poppies were in there, but there were some others too that were I had seen as well. I just thought it was pretty, but and then here are the lupins with the cactus. And that was at that this one was at that Picacho Peak State Park. They had I found poppies there too. These were taken there. And so were these. That was a good place to go look. And then this one is Saguaro National Park. And you don't see a lot of saguaros in this picture, but boy, there were a lot of them in other parts. But, you know, I took this picture because of the poppies, and I just thought it was pretty. Luckily, they had bloomed enough for us to see when we were there. Anyway, that's all I have, but enjoy hunting wildflowers, and I have my Instagram and portfolio. Also, in my portfolio, I have tried to identify different flowers and wildflowers, so you can always look in there if you're not sure what something is.
Well, this was great, Gail. Let me get you to take down your screen. I saw one question in the chat. Let me pull that up real quick. Okay, so I believe this is from Karina. Her question was, she's curious if you use a flash with your macro lens, and if so, what kind?
No, I don't. I had something for my another camera, but I don't remember what it was that I put around the edges. But I have been taking pictures in the day, so I haven't been using them.
Okay, that's all right. Um, so let me go back and okay, so this is one of those things. She's there are people that are not necessarily from Texas in this room. And because I'm from Texas and I love where I live and I love to share where I live, I want to first of all thank you for sharing the Texas wildflowers and so many of them. And we're trying to entice people to come visit Texas during the springtime because it really is the prettiest time of the year for us. I grew up in South Texas, and I've said this once before, many times before. It's brown. It stays brown like I don't know 9 months of the year, and so when you get that pop of green and these oil fields or pastures, old farm um, crop fields full of color, it is absolutely mind blowing. And the some of the flowers that Gail was showing, you're thinking, oh, she's jacked up those colors with vibrancy or some type of saturation. She has not. They are, what's the word, neon. I mean, they are just so vibrant. Those, especially the violets, I don't ever remember the names of those flowers. They're kind of like phlox, but they kind of get mixed in. And I think your husband's, you said he might like other flowers other than bluebonnets. And you're thinking, no, you can't say that. Well, I'm going to say it because I have said it too. It's like, man, the bluebonnets are beautiful, but there are so many other colors. And I really get excited about the fields of yellow. And maybe it's because they just pop and it looks like someone took a highlighter to a big field. They're just they're glowing, and then under the right sunlight, it's just, you have to see it for
I like
yourself.
that backlight on those on the yellow flowers and then the trees and aspens in Colorado. It makes it look so much better, the backlight.
Yeah. They and there's so much variety. It was funny because I think you were showing a photo of a mallow, some at a globe mallow, I think is what you called it. It was kind of the orange little flowers. And
Desert
I
globe mallow. Yeah.
yeah. And so when I was a little girl, we would have those all over the place in South Texas. And now that, I've seen that picture, it just kind of, joggled my memory. And I haven't seen one of those in forever. And
Yeah.
wildflowers get mowed over by farmers because they don't really like them, or the cows will stomp all over them. So, they kind of come and go. But it was some of the photos that you were showing took me back to being a little, being a kid back in South Texas, and there was just only a couple of weeks where the flowers were just so many, just amazing colors. So I know there's a few ladies in here that are like, oh, maybe one day I'll come visit. I hope you do, because this was a great introduction to people that are not from here to kind of see what we have. And it's more than just bluebonnets. So the bluebonnets are beautiful. I'm not gonna, argue that, but there's so many others that we kind of forget. And one of the photos that you shared is probably one of my favorite scenes, is when you get all those blues mixed in with your blue bonnets and the yellows and those hot pinks. And it's just, it reminds me of like a Monet impressionistic painting, except he used all the bright colors. But yeah, so that's probably one of my favorite I've taken similar photos of those colors, and it's mesmerizing. So thank you for, going through your archive and taking the time to identify some of these photos of flowers for me, because I don't know all the flowers. I see them and I take their pictures, but it was certainly kind of a little education for me personally. So let me just make sure that I didn't miss any questions, but I don't think so. There's some nice comments in here for you, Gail. And so I love this, Karina. She says, I'll admit, Texas was never on my bucket list to visit, but after joining this group, it's on my top 5. That is
Yeah, I
so,
felt that way too. I thought I'm
oh,
from the
cool.
East
Yeah.
Coast, Virginia, and I was like, oh, I'd never live in Texas. And then noticed they sent my job down there. And then as soon as I saw the blue bonnets and all the mixtures of wildflowers, I thought, oh my gosh, this place is beautiful. And I have
And
friends from Virginia. When I posted pictures on Facebook, they said, how did you have all these wildflowers? We don't have them like that, and I mean, there are some, but not like this.
goes, I always have to say, she was she I don't know how to say it, the queen of preservation. Lady Bird Johnson did a whole lot for Texas. She really made strides in preserving and, I don't know, seeding a lot of the highways. And it is something to see in the right um, time of the year. Wildflowers in Texas, they rely on rain. And if we don't get enough rain, we're not going to get the wildflowers. That doesn't mean that we won't get any. It's just you're going to have to work harder to find them. And I believe some of the photos you had in there, I believe it was the super bloom of 2018. It could have been 2017 or 2018. I forget which one it was. I drove in a 3-day weekend over 1,200 miles just in and around my area looking for wildflowers, because there was, just as soon as you come across a field of thinking, God, this is the best one yet, you go down the road and went, oh man, there's a windmill with this one. So there's so many different scenes that you get little farms and barns. And one of my favorites was coming across, a couple of donkeys that just rolled in the wildflowers. And it was just those little things that you think, I should be doing my laundry. But
Yeah.
instead, I'm running the roads and chasing wildflowers, and it's a vacation in itself. So if you have Texas on your list to see wildflowers, please, 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 try to get here, because um, it's a fun time. There's nothing else, anything better than bluebonnets and barbecue. That's a good road trip right there. So,
Yes,
all right.
then you go to Colorado afterwards and see more. I mean,
Yep.
ours are pretty much over by the time theirs come in.
Yeah, I know. It kind of works out. You come to Texas first, get here like end of March, because they're popping a little early this year, end of March, early April, and then you make your way to Colorado, and then make your way up to. I believe a friend and I went up to uh, Washington State,
Mhm.
and the lupin. Y'all are saying lupins. I say lupine, so I'm not sure
We
who's
were corrected on that one in Colorado.
is it lupin? Lupin? Yeah. So the lupins in Washington State were waist high. I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool. We're used to like the itty bitty ones, but let me tell you, the fragrance is just like heaven. So, all right, Gail, thank you
Has
so much
them
for doing
too.
this. I'm sorry.
Northeast has them too. You're,
Oh yeah.
they have they have, you know, Lupin days or whatever, whatever they call it. They do. They also have it. I mean, I just had thought, oh, it's a Colorado. I mean, it's a not a Colorado. It's a Texas thing. And then, then you saw these flowers in Colorado. I was like, are they the same? And sure enough,
Yeah, they're all the same family. Funny enough, a friend of mine on Instagram, she's from Norway, and she, during bluebonnet season, she says, one day I would love to see these. I would just love to see these. And I'm like, come, this was, October. And I said, look, if you want to come, just come. And it turned out, she's like, okay, if I really come, I'm like, if you really come, you stay at my house and we'll run the roads. And she came that following March, and we ran roads. And, for somebody that is not from here to see the wildflowers through their eyes, it got me really excited. And I mean, we put a lot of miles that weekend, looking for big fields, but it's a whole lot of fun. And it's just a bonus if you have a camera and you like to take photographs of flowers. So it's an invitation, open invitation, ladies. Get to Texas. Karina, if you get here, look us up. We will help you, plot a little map for you to make sure you hit a bunch of the hot spots, because it's ever moving. It's like, one weekend I'll go east, and then the next weekend I'll go south. So you can move around and see different scenes for 2, 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks in a row. And like Charlie's message is like, one day I went out every weekend for about 6 weeks and we drove all over. That's exactly what I do every year. So um anyway, it's something to do at least once in your lifetime. So Donna from Michigan, I hope that Gayle has enticed you to come and check out our playgrounds, our spring playgrounds. All right, until next time, I hope that you get a chance to get out with your cameras. It is spring. There's a lot of things popping up, whether it's on highways or in your backyard. So get out, find an excuse to go play, and we'll see you